Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids and welcome to one of the biggest test servers we have had in a long time. Of course, this is the test server which has dropped Faction Wars Hard. I've got a full video going through it in depth, all the different facets of it. And of course, as I mentioned in that video, stay tuned. You know, when Faction Wars, when this goes live, I think it should be live in 4 days from now. I think I forgot to mention that in that video. But in 4 days, when this goes live in game, I will be probably making a video each day, going through my Faction War stages per day and trying to guide you guys through and showing you exactly the strategies I use, because it is quite the challenge, for sure. In this video, we're going through the new champions, and of course, the place to start, the ultimate reward for Faction Wars Hard, Polara, level 0, Polara Fireheart. There we go. Polara Fireheart. Is she good? Is she worth all this work? One fun thing, I wonder if this will be fixed, is we've got an issue where she's got this cool fire orb, but it starts getting affected by like the background effect. So if we move it into the background, then the blur effect on the background starts being applied. If we put the orb in front of her character, it then sharpens it up. So that's funny. But anyway, she looks cool. Here she is in her base form. She looks badass. One fun little fact about her, as you can see from like her arm thing, she is actually a member of HellHades.com. Hell Hades is in the game. Again, another champion who's part of Hell Hades. Amazing. I freaking love it. But now she looks sick in this base form. Let's take a look. Now, this is interesting. She's an attack champion, but is she? But is she? Kind of. She's a damage dealer for sure. But we'll see in a sec. But yeah, we see her base stats, standard enough stuff. Let's go through the kit. We'll start with her passive, Elemental Mistress. She does 25% more damage against enemies under HP burn or freeze debuffs. She does 100% more damage against enemies under both HP burn and freeze debuffs. And she ignores the damage reduction granted by freeze. So I still need to test out exactly how much damage she's going to do. I think there's going to be no question, though. If enemies are under both burn and freeze, she is going to absolutely delete them. Her damage is going to be crazy. So definitely for any wave clear situations, she's going to be insane. Basically, no boss is vulnerable to freeze, but they are generally vulnerable to HP burn. So you'll get the 25% damage boost there. You'll definitely want to combo her with burners. Freeze, though, yes, it's spicy. Let's look at her kit. She, by the way, has a 40% attack and arena aura, which is a lot. Now, when I said she was an attack champion, but is she? This is interesting. Her damage is based on defense and attack. Usually, when Plarium lists this stuff, they do put the bigger multiplier first. And that's the same on all of her skills, which leads me to believe that she actually scales more off of defense than attack, which is quite quirky. So we'll see when she actually goes live in game and we get her actual damage multipliers data mined. But that's kind of spicy. In advance, her second form is, let's actually look at the visuals. Her second form wants to load in. There she is. Hey, there she is. And boom, the sword appears. It's very cool. So it's like the sword from before, but now encased in ice. Her second form is a defense champion. And it does have an AoE. So her second form will probably be doing pretty darn good damage. Like, you're probably going to want to get gear with a good bit of defense and attack on it. And that defense and the crit rate, crit damage is going to carry over to form 2. For A3, Pyro Maxima. It's a 4-turn books to a 3-turn. Attacks all enemies. Does single target damage to each target individually rather than AoE. Ignores shield, block damage, and unkillable. Instantly activates any HP burns on all enemies, and places block revive on targets that are killed while under HP burn or freeze. This A3 is absolutely bonkers. This is so strong. So doing single target damage, that is massive for Hydra specifically, where they've got tons of AoE damage mitigation, but there's also sets and masteries, champions like Duchess, that do give AoE damage mitigation. There's far less single target damage mitigation. A couple of gems. That's about it, though. So yeah, for Arena, ignoring shield, block damage, and unkillable is extremely useful. There's a lot of very nasty champions with those effects, so that's really good. Activating the burn. It's maybe a little less useful, but it is going to give you some extra damage. I mean, by the time you get this champion, you've fully cleared Faction Wars Hard. you're pretty far into the game. Like you're not like a 3-month game player, you know? So this is nice, but yeah, like probably very helpful for Spider, but I would imagine you've probably beaten most other content by the time you get this chick. Block revive on targets with burn or freeze again for Arena is incredibly strong. Very, very strong. So yeah, she's looking like potentially a scary nuker for Arena. Very, very scary. Now her A2, Faithful Conflagration, 4-turn goes to a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit ignores 25% defense, and each hit ignores 50% defense instead if they're under burn or freeze. So yeah, again, if you put her with Lethal and Helm Smasher Mastery, she can hit for true damage. She can ignore defense completely with a bit of luck. If you give her Merciless and the Cat's Gaze, she'll basically ignore 100% defense 100% of the time. So this is going to be a absolutely massive single target nuke. Each hit also destroys the target's defense and resist by 3%, up to 30%. Destroying defense, there's a few champs like Noose. I think Harima does it. Cruelty obviously does it. So this can be stronger than Cruelty. I think Cruelty goes to 20% max. This goes to 30%. But they don't stack together. This will just sort of be working alongside Cruelty, and then it will start to actually impact it more so when it goes past the cap of Cruelty. Destroying resistance is pretty unusual though, so that's cool. And then puts a HP burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns if the target is killed by this skill and it cannot be resisted. Again, in Arena, let's say you go in and the enemy is, they've got 3 of their 4 team members in Stone Skin. Well, if you go in and you delete the one person who doesn't have Stone Skin, she'll then burn all the others and set herself up for an AoE that is going to activate the burns and help blow up Stone Skin even more, but also place Block Revive. There's definitely some spicy combo potential there. And her A1, Burning Zeal, attacks one enemy, puts an extra hit if the target's under any debuffs, and a 25% chance of an extra turn. So busted, man. That is insanely good for an A1. Just that extra hits are usually extremely strong. When champions have conditional extra hits, oftentimes the game designers, I mean, Trunda is a classic example of this. Oftentimes it just does nuts damage. Magnar, another classic example. So I expect this to actually be a very, very hard-hitting A1. And then a 25% chance of an extra turn when she's got 3 turn cooldowns on her nukes. She's going to be disgusting. Like, genuinely, that is absolutely terrifying. She's going to be ripping through. So Form 1, to me, looks like a very, very powerful damage dealer. I mean, one of her only downsides, she is Force Affinity. So for being like a wave clear monster, like a Marius, right? He's Void Affinity. So for running dungeons and speed farming stuff, he's easier to fit into teams. She will weak hit some enemies, so that will hold her back a little bit. But yeah, I think she's going to be an absolute damage monster against waves and even against bosses. This A3 against bosses is going to be huge damage. And her A1, she looks like she's got huge damage potential and huge arena potential. She's just got potential coming out her ears. It really comes down to what are these damage multipliers going to be, because she's got nothing to keep herself alive, right? In this form. She is, at the end of the day, in this form, still a squishy damage dealer, but she looks like she does crazy damage and is a lot of fun to play around. Now, second form, very cool. The Ice form, obviously going to be a tanky champion. She's defense-based. She looks it sick. So here we go. Her base stats, her speed goes slightly higher. So she gains 2 more speed, gains some more resistance, drops some crit damage, drops her attack, but she doesn't scale off of it, gains more defense, more HP. So kind of what you'd expect. Cryomantic Revival, her passive. Allies under freeze receive 90% less damage. I think freeze by default, maybe you take 20 or 25. I can't remember how much. You take slightly less damage when you're frozen anyway. This makes you take 90% less. Why do you want that? Well, it's because of the active. Once per round, revives each ally, including this champion, with 100% HP, and places a freeze debuff on the revived ally for 1 turn that cannot be resisted or blocked. So she can revive everyone in your team once per fight, and then brings them back. Frozen, yes, but with 90% damage reduction, so it's very difficult to kill them. That's very cool. Very, very cool. There we go. That's sick. Let's look at her active skills then. Ice Blade Tempest, 4 books to a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies. Before attacking, places 1 intercept stack on all allies. First team-wide intercept champion in the game. Places freeze on all enemies for 1 turn that cannot be resisted. So you don't need to build this champ with any accuracy. That's a huge boon. She can do the irresistible burn in Form 1. If she kills somebody, she can do an irresistible freeze. It means there's also no 3% chance it will fail against, like, let's say in the event dungeons. Crowd control has been very effective. You can build this champion to be a 100% successful AoE freeze, regardless of anything, which is really good. And yeah, intercept for your team is big. Her damage, sorry, I was wrong. Her damage actually still scales off attack in Form 2, but her base attack goes down a lot. But yeah, so building some defense is definitely going to be, she's going to be doing probably fairly decent damage in Form 2 as well. She's probably no slouch, but that's a great move. Yeah, team-wide intercept, AoE freeze that can't be resisted, very strong. Frozen Tendrils, her A3, places block debuffs and strengthen on all allies for 2 turns. Now, one downside, you probably won't be building her with like protection set. You're probably building her with damage sets. So it won't be protected or anything, but still 2 very good debuffs, 2 of the best. And then places a 100% ensnare, a new debuff on all enemies for 2 turns that cannot be resisted by enemies under burn or freeze. So this is where if you don't build accuracy, this is going to be less reliable. And you probably won't build much accuracy. So you'll land it on like damage dealers, but not other people. What is ensnare? It's a new debuff. There's 2 versions, a small version, which is like a quarter of a web, and then the big version, which is the full web. Any turn meter increase effects received by a champion with the ensnare debuff will be reduced by 50% for the small version or 100% for the big version. She does the big version, so she, basically with this ensnare debuff, she reduces turn meter increase effects by 100%, i.e. they do nothing. So she stops enemies gaining any turn meter. It's pretty good. Then her A1, Glacial Carve, attacks 1 enemy, places a 50% ally protection buff on a random ally, except for this champion for 2 turns. If the randomly selected ally already has ally protection, she puts it on another randomly selected ally. Then heals this champion and any allies under ally protection buffs proportional to her defense. Don't know how strong this heal is going to be, but this is quite unique as well. I don't think there's another champion who can be... I mean, Necrets can put out the single target ally protections, but he does it actively. This is putting them out randomly. So yeah, it's random, but she could be quite difficult to deal with in arena with this passive revive, with the ally protections and the healing. Yeah, just all the buffs. I think it's very powerful. So to me, she looks very powerful in both forms. I mean, one slight downside is she's not very good at self-enabling. Like, she can place burn over here, and then you could, in theory, swap to Form 2 and get the irresistible ensnare, but there's a lot of steps there. Will you have enough speed? Will the debuff still be there? She can freeze here, but she's no extra turn. So, yeah, you kind of need to be running her with other burners, really, and possibly other freeze champions to get her max benefit, but she's doing a lot for you. That's very, very strong. Yeah, she looks great. She looks really good. She looks really fun. So that's the new mythical from Faction Wars. I think she looks fantastic. Then we've got 3 other champions. First up, from the Demon Spawn, we've got Praeva the Slitherer. So, yeah, I'm pulling hard for Duchess well, not hard, but I'm pulling for Duchess, hoping for Duchess this weekend, because as you can see, I don't have Duchess. Well, guess what? We have another reviver for the Demon Spawn. Here she is. I think we saw some concept art of her in the What's Next video, and I was a bit down on it. She actually looks quite cool in-game, I think. She is like a PvE-focused reviver. 20% speed in all battles aura. It's actually 1% better than Duchess. Doesn't really make a difference. Her passive is cool. Sacrificial Servant. At the start of her turn, transfers 1 debuff from each ally to this champion. Will not transfer crowd control, unfortunately. The effect cannot be resisted or blocked, and you can't stack multiple champions. At the end of her turn, fills the turn meter of all allies by 10% and an additional 2% for every debuff on this champion. So this actually adds up pretty good. Like a 10% turn meter boost at the end of every single one of her turns is a small bonus, but that adds up over a longer fight. You're actually giving people quite a bit of turn meter. And she's got the potential to be running like a Relentless set, get some extra turns, be cleansing more debuffs off your team and filling their turn meter even more. She definitely seems like an extra turn loving champion because of this. Her A3, Seed of Corruption. 6 goes to a 4-turn cooldown, revives a single ally with 100% HP, 50% turn meter, and fully resets the cooldown of all of their skills. I think this is the same as like Godseeker. I guess she brings them back with more health, but it's like Godseeker's Revive. It's the same cooldown as well. Yeah, 4-turn cooldown, half HP, half turn meter, resets their skills. So it's the same cooldown. It's not that much stronger, honestly. It just brings them back with 100% HP, which is good. Fully resets their skills, though. It's good. A single target revive is often all that you need. Fully resetting the skills is really, really good. 100% HP is nice. I think it's good, but not crazy, right? Considering that an epic basically has the same thing, although it's a very strong skill. Malignant Energy 5 books to a 3-turn cooldown, heals all allies by 25% of this champ's max HP, and she's got very high. She's got very high base speed as well at 110. Then puts increased defense and increased speed on all allies for 2 turns, so 2 nice buffs with a big heal. Cool. And then her A1 attacks one enemy, transfers all debuffs from this champion to the target, and it cannot be resisted if she's under 3 or more debuffs. Fun. So, put it together, I feel like she's a not good for arena. This is not an arena champion, because she's only got the single target revive with half turn meter. Not good enough, really. Cleansing, but not cleansing. Crowd control. The small bit of turn meter. Increased defense and speed, and a bit of heat. Like, she's not an arena champion. So most survivors are good for arena. She's not. She's not built for it. But I think for bosses like Chimera and Hydra and stuff like that, removing like poisons and removing potentially decreased defense stuff, weakens for faction wars as well. This is going to be great. Removing those debuffs and boosting turn meter, a single target revive, great buffs and healing, and then potentially like throwing those debuffs back. Like you remove poisons from the Viper form, throw them all back. You remove poisons again from, let's say, I think one of the Demon Lord forms does it, throw them back. That stuff is kind of nice, like decrease attack from Head of Wrath in Hydra and throw it back. It's actually quite cool. So there you go. I think that's fun. We'll see how she plays in practice, but I think she looks like quite a solid PvE reviver. Yeah, she looks decent. She actually looks quite decent. Very good for Fire Knight, actually, is one thing. Because you bring her in for Fire Knight, I think Fire Knight does actually place decreased speed on you, and some other stuff as well, I think on hard mode. And she can then throw that decreased speed back on the boss, which is useful. And she also has this, put out increased defense, and you could give her the Faultless Defense Blessing, which can reflect damage back at the boss. So she can boost up with this first. You get hit, it knocks a bunch of pips off the boss. If somebody dies, she can revive them with a full reset. And yeah, then she can throw the debuffs back. She'll cleanse the decreased speed off your team, turn meter boost them a bit, and start throwing debuffs back to the boss. It could work fairly well. Something to consider. The only downside might be she might try to put the decreased speed back on the shield, and it will just not work. I don't know. But she looks decent. Not an arena champion, but a good champion. Oh, wrong champ. Uzol. Uzol of the Jade. This guy looks sick. I'm really curious to read his lore when he's in-game, because he reminds me a lot of Mountain King, who I don't have. And obviously, Samar Gem Cursed is Mountain King's son and Newt's brother. And yeah, Uzol of the Jade very much reminds me. He's sort of like if you combine Samar and Mountain King together. So I wonder if he's another brother. I mean, he's not ginger, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. This guy looks very fun. This is an attack-based damage dealer with extra turns built in. Jade King. Increase the chance of all allies to gain an extra turn by 5%. There's a bunch of gemstones in the game, and even some relics now, that give you a chance for an extra turn. So he makes that better. And he does 25% more damage on extra turns himself. His A3, Royal Fury. 3-turn cooldown when booked. Attacks one enemy. Ignores shield block damage unkillable. Great. Also ignores Stone Skin and 100% defense if the skill was used on an extra turn or an instant turn. That's pretty spicy. Like with a Freya or with... he is an attack-based damage dealer as well. With Shuzen, any sorts of champs like that. Or if he procs an extra turn himself... This is a huge nuke that goes through almost everything. It's very strong. It's A2. 4-turn books to a 3-turn cooldown. Stonehearted. Attacks all enemies. Before attacking, reduces the value of any shield buffs on all enemies by 100% and places decreased defense on them for 2 turns. They cannot be resisted if the skill was used on an extra turn. Then has a 20% chance of granting an extra turn. The chance increases by 10% for each critical hit. So if I hit 4 enemies and I crit all of them, now he might not because of affinity, but that could be 40% extra. He could have a 60% chance of an extra turn, and I presume he has an extra 5, so 65%, I would think. 65% chance of an extra turn off of an AoE into a massive nuke, potentially, is actually really, really juicy. So that's cool. He's also an AoE decreased defense champ on a 3-turn cooldown that can cycle back to it probably with extra turns fairly often. Really, really solid. Yeah, reducing the value of shields is interesting. We've got some champs with big shields and like bolster. I think because you're reducing the value of bolster set, I think this will be a way, I think, to remove bolster without removing it. It should not, the removing the shield should not trigger polymorph because you're not removing the buff, you're just lowering the shield value. Bolster set is a protected shield, or like Necret. I think, does he have protected shield? I don't remember, but anything like that. He's not removing the shield, he's just lowering the value. So this should bypass any protection effects. So it could potentially be very good. Funny enough, this bypasses, I think reducing the shield value should bypass polymorph. Placing decreased defense does not bypass polymorph. You can still get polymorphed off of that. But yeah, I think he's going to be a monster, honestly. And then his A1, Ruthless Axemaster, attacks one enemy, 20% chance of granting an extra turn. If he kills an enemy, just straight up gives him an extra turn. So what we've got here, big chance for extra turn on his A1. No chance of extra turn on his A3, but it's a massive nuke. His A2, AoE, remove shields, decrease defense, and a massive chance for an extra turn. He does more damage on extra turns. He looks like he's going to be a ton of fun. He looks like he'll be a ton of fun. He might be quite scary in arena. Like when stuff starts popping off, he's really going to pop off. Like when he starts getting extra turns, he's going to go freaking crazy. And I think for Faction Wars, he's going to be an absolute monster. I guess one downside, he's very squishy, especially for a dwarf. But he looks really fun. There you go. Uzol of the Jade, I think a very fun damage dealer. Like I like it. Instead of just being like a generic damage dealer, he's got like, I potentially get lots of extra turns. Makes him a bit more spicy. And then finally, we've got Niamhe, Spear of Nysera. Cool. So she looks cool. A new Void Legendary. Does she live up to the Void Legendary hype? Let's take a look. In short, I think she probably does. She's all about tankiness. You got 35% defense in all battles. Shield Mistress, her passive. This is what's exciting. Puts block damage on all allies for 1 turn at the start of the round, and each time this champion's HP drops below 50%. Like there's a relic which heals you when you drop below 50. So you could use that to your advantage. You drop below 50, she puts block damage on everyone, and then she heals above 50. So then if you damage her again, she just puts block damage out again. So yeah, anti-hegemon though. Big anti-hegemon energy. Big anti-go first team energy. Just everyone gets block damage at the start of the fight. If you put her in 9 pieces of protection, she's going to be putting out, and she doesn't need Stone Skin against many champions because she's putting out block damage. There you go. Now, of course, we've got champions like Rotus. Does he ignore block? Yeah, he ignores block damage. Obviously, a couple of the champs we saw today ignore block damage as well. There's a few champs that can ignore this, but this is still very strong and could really hard counter some teams in arena. There's even a relic as well, which reflects damage absorbed by block damage, which could be quite spicy. Vulcanen's Grasp, I think, or Embrace. Vulcanen something. It's an epic relic and could synergize well there. So it's a very, very cool passive. Definitely a Void Legendary tier passive. Very strong. I think very good for if you could make her the target for the Ram form in Chimera, he should target her. And then when she drops below 50% HP, give block damage to herself and the whole team as well. So she should stop the Ram form from killing her every single time, which is really cool. There's no cooldown on this as well, which is cool. So she'll be an excellent Ram form tank. You build her with no crit damage. Jeweled Leaf for A3. 4-turn books to a 3-turn cooldown. Heals all allies. Heals proportional to her defense. Puts block debuffs and ally protection on all allies for 2 turns. Again, ally protection with this passive is very strong. Don't know how strong the heal is. Hopefully it's pretty good. But yeah, block debuffs, ally protection. Again, screaming to be a protection set champion. Cerulean Guard. 5-turn goes to a 4-turn cooldown. Attacks one enemy. If the target is 50% HP or less, this attack is always critical and ignores 50% defense. That's quite interesting. Puts a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to the difference between the target's current HP and their maximum HP. If the target is a boss, the shield's proportional to her defense instead. If the target's killed, reduces the cooldowns of all ally skills by 2 turns. There's a lot to unpack here. Now, it's a 4-turn cooldown. It's quite long. I would say, let's say against Chimera, we were talking about that. I think you just run her in protection. Actually, kind of not. If you go in later in the week, and Chimera or Demon Lord works the same way. If they're below half HP, they'll always be below half HP for the whole fight. So she will always be critting them and ignoring 50% defense. So she might do a decent chunk of damage. But yeah, it's probably not going to really add up to that much, right? Against those bosses, but it's something to note. And should just be giving you a shield proportional to defense, and that's it. So big shield on a 4-turn, bit of damage. Okay. In Arena, in Faction Wars as well, it's obviously a bit more difficult to ensure that enemies have low HP, but if she crits and ignores defense, even without building her as a damage dealer, she might do a decent bit of damage and might actually be able to secure some kills, which is cool, which would make the shield bigger because they need to be lower on life. And potentially, if she does kill someone, reducing ally skills by 2 turns is incredibly strong. She might be a fun one where you actually might be building her as like in 9-piece protection with no crit rate, but really high crit damage. High crit damage increases, weirdly, the damage you take from ally protection. Logical, I know, but it does. But yeah, by taking more damage, if that can trigger block damage on your whole team more often, that could actually be really strong. And then any enemy, if they drop below half HP, she'll always crit. If you build a really high crit damage, she'll ignore 50% defense, secure some kills, and reset ally skills by 2 turns. Actually really good. Her A1 then, Wood Spear, attacks one enemy, places decrease attack and decrease crit rate on the target for 2 turns. 50% chance that goes to a 75% chance. These debuffs cannot be resisted or blocked. Again, that's amazing. That's actually really good. So 100, if you build her with enough accuracy, 100% chance for decrease attack and decrease crit rate. That's great. But you probably don't build her with any accuracy, and it's just a 75% chance that they just place anyway. So it's a 75% chance for decrease attack and decrease crit rate. That's actually a genuinely great A1. Again, Chimera in ultimate form can start, when you complete trials, can start getting more crit rate. That's really good. Obviously, nearly every boss in the game, most enemies in the game, PvE, have 15% chance to crit. If they're positive affinity against you, if they have the affinity advantage, they get an extra 15%. So they've got 30%. This stops most bosses critting most enemies. I think Amius, I think, in Form 2 has higher crit rate, I think. Phantom Shogun has higher crit rate. Chimera Ultimate Form can get higher. Chimera Lion Form, which is like the sort of heavy damage dealer form, that has, I think, 50% crit rate. So yeah, decreased crit rate, particularly good against those bosses, even if you're void affinity and just general positive affinity towards the boss. But yeah, it's a really, really good A1. Very good for Arena as well, to just, because it's for 2 turns. Can't be blocked is really nice for Arena. Just go, you're whatever, your Seek friend, take that, 30% less crit rate and 50% less attack, and you couldn't stop it. Get wrecked. Really good. Again, it's only 75%, but that's probably good enough. So yeah, you put all this together. I think Niamhe actually looks really strong. Yeah, Niamhe, another Irish name, very cool. I forget what it means though. Very common name, but yeah, very strong. Really strong passive. I love the synergy with like a high crit damage 9-piece protection build is what jumps out to me. And you go in and you have the synergy between the passive, the A2 bonus effect here, high defense, high crit damage. She'll be like the pseudo nuker at low health enemies that can reset your skills, giving you a great shield, protecting you really well, triggering block damage often, and an amazing debuff. She seems really good, actually. Yeah, very strong Void Legendary. I love her, actually. She seems like a great design. Very powerful. Like, insane. She's going to be a nightmare to deal with, I think, for people. Makes ignore block damage champions like Polara, like, who else can do? The newly buffed Gallius can ignore block damage. Someone people might actually have. Thor ignores block damage. Ignore block damage champs becoming sort of generally more important in the game with some really nasty block damage effects on, well, several of the mythicals as well. So there you go. They are the new champions. Let me know what you think. Who is your favorite one? I think my favorite is definitely I think Polara is going to be the most fun with the most stuff going on, and you will definitely get her, though it will take you years probably of playing the game, but you will definitely get her eventually. She's a long-term goal. I think she'll be really fun. I think that Niamhe then looks really strong to me. The dwarf looks like a bit more of a niche champion, you know, like, because he's going to be so unreliable. Will he actually get the extra turns or not? But he seems very fun. but you know, probably not too meta because he's so random. But seems really fun. And by the way, Dwarves becomes very scary with like Black Tusk, Senna, Arnorn, Uzol. Like it becomes pretty scary. Like the poor mythicals are being left in the shadows by some of the top tier legendaries in this faction. It's kind of embarrassing actually. And then the demon spawn, I feel like she's not too exciting, but she's good. She feels like a solid champ, very helpful for progression and for new players. If you pull her, she's going to be massive for faction wars, but not truly exciting. And if you got Duchess already and other top revivers, not too exciting. That's my thoughts on it, guys. There you go. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. And yeah, there's been so many videos today. Thanks for watching and supporting, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.